we go, let's get those wheels out on the road. It may get dusty, but that's the way she goes. We'll build some greasy old cars and drink our AGT. Hey, don't you know, it's partly built.
Welcome back to the shop. It's Saturday. I had to come in for some work. Even though I'm supposed to be moving, we're ahead of schedule. Had to come in, finish up a job. So I got that done. Now I'm just tinkering on my own stuff. I'll show you what we got done here. So this morning, well, it is afternoon now. I just cleaned up this tube where I had my weld. I put the new gasket in, and I got my depth set on my pickup tube. It's about 6.5 inches, which should give me about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the pan without the gasket. So with the gasket, it should be better. I also mixed up a whole bunch of epoxy first of all, I ground down a ton of the welds inside and outside. Then I cleaned it all out inside, cleaned it all outside, brake cleaned it, blew it off. And then I mixed up a bunch of JB weld, not JB quick, because it's only good to about 300 and change Fahrenheit, where this is like 550. I know that's way overkill, but better safe than sorry. And then I put it on in a nice layer, spread it around with my hands. I finger painted it. So we'll give that a day or two to dry. Then we'll hit that with a coat of paint, and we can get it bolted down to the block with my new gasket. I also got my exhaust kit yesterday. It's actually for $165. It's a really nice set. I mean, it's not going to be enough to do the whole car. I'll still have to get probably 2 more straight sticks, but for 2 sticks of pipe is going to be as much as that whole kit was. So I'm not complaining at all. So I'm just going to finish up a couple little things here, and I might fill my transmission with oil, and then I'll call it a day. So if I do go out to Josh's tomorrow, I'll make sure to have a camera with me, and I'll probably mostly be welding on the frame, but I'll just show you finished work maybe. And then we're good to go. So I couldn't help myself. I got the pan all bolted on, siliconed, because I don't trust my warpage. And I got the borescope in here now, and as you can see, there's the pickup tube in there, and there's the bottom of the pan there. And I did look inside with a light, and it's just below the top of the drain hole. So I'm really happy with the placement of my pickup tube. Once this pan dries, I'll throw a coat of paint on it. I'll flip this over, I'll fill it with oil, and I'll pre-lube the system. I got a brand new shorter filter on because the long filter was hitting the steering. So yeah, Monday-ish, I'll paint that with a couple coats of paint, flip it over, we'll put some oil in the old girl, and we'll prime it, and then we'll let it sit, and then I will drain it and put fresh oil and a fresh filter on it so that any of the particles or debris are out of the engine. Welcome back, everyone. It's been about a week and a half, just about, since I was last here. I don't know if I actually even filmed anything last week when I was here, but we got quite a bit done on the frame, and we flipped the frame over onto its side, and I'm ready to do the finish welding underneath. I figure I got about an hour or two of welding left. I got 1, maybe 2 patches left to put in, and that's done. But I got some goodies today, so I'll show those to you now. So I got, I don't know if I showed it or not, but I have that Weaver 2¼ inch exhaust kit. So I got some 3" to 2" adapters, 3" to 2¼ I got some 3" ball socket flanges to weld onto the headers, because there's no flanges on those headers. And if you run a ball socket, you don't have to worry about blowing exhaust gaskets all the time. And to get around that in the past, like on my old half-ton, I have regular 3-bolt flanges on there. You run like a good quality flex coupling behind it. But I mean, these cost the same as a good flex coupling. So, and this just solves everything in one, and I had to buy flanges anyway. So we'll get these at some point welded up to each other, and I'll cut the headers back because the headers actually neck down to about 2.5. I'll cut the headers back. I'll weld these couplers to the headers, and then they're good to go. And then also I got a Transdapt safety loop for the drive shaft. It's just a cheap generic kit of theirs. There's not a lot of space for the drive shaft in there, so I might do some modifying. And they want you to bolt this through the floor, but I will probably just build brackets off the frame because it makes more sense to me. But that's something we don't have to worry about right away. We can deal with later. So anyway, I also got a tubing straightener too. Not that that matters, but I'll show you what I got going on here. So as you can see, we got the frame tipped up on its side, and I just have finish welding here and where the front's all tied in on both sides. And then I have a little bit of trimming and patching to do on that piece down there. So we're getting really close there, and I also have to trim and patch the bottoms of these fronts of the rails here. And then same along the bottom at the backs, get that all done. Josh got all of the rear framing repaired last time. So yeah, I get this little bit of welding done, and then this thing should hopefully be ready to put back on its wheels, drop the engine and transmission in for good later this week, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday-ish. Today's Monday. And then I can get the headers dimpled where I need it and get them installed for good. Get the O2 sensor bung welded into one of those collectors, and we'll be ready to cut the hole in the bottom of the cab for the shifter and or the transmission. And hopefully I can start plumbing all the brakes and figure the steering out. And once that's done, we can put all the front sheet metal on and finish the wiring. I also need to run brake line from the back to the front and a fuel line from the back to the front. But I kind of want to wait till the cab's on it so I can see where I need to route the hard line to get as close to the tank outlet as I can. So I'm gonna put the camera down, I'll shut it off, and I'm gonna get doing some welding here. And then if I remember, I'll grab the camera and show you when I'm done. Okay, so it's been better part of 2.5 hours, and I have boxed in the backs, and I have also finished boxing in the fronts. The welds are ugly, but they're plenty strong enough. I did the ends of the rails. I did the boxes at the back where the suspension mounts. So it's good to get flipped over. And there's one weld I got to check down at the bottom here. It was a little tough to get to. And then it should be ready to drop the engine in and hopefully start getting the cab on and all the lines done. Well, welcome back. We're gonna get started putting the frame back under the body, which means we're gonna have to cut the tunnel. We're probably gonna have to pull the seats back out of the body and everything, but I was here a couple days ago and Josh and I got the engine, the transmission, and the drive shaft all put in for good. And I have also finished fully mounting in the front suspension. I got the headers modified so that they clear everything. And we got the O2 sensor bung welded into the one collector, and that's all ready to go to start doing the exhaust. So we are ready to start putting it under the body. So I'll show you here what we got done. So as you can see, drive shaft's all in. I still need to grease that U-joint, but it's fine. Transmission and engine are fully mounted in. We've just got steering, brakes, and fuel lines to figure out for all that. We got the rod support and the rads set in. They'll probably have to come in and out about 3-4 times, but we're getting there. We're pretty much done with all the framework. We still do have to do sway bar end links, or not end links, sorry, sway bar mounts, but it's getting there. As you can see, we up and downed a few times. We had to pull a wheel because This is extra safety. But we did get the frame, or not the frame, sorry, the body marked roughly where we got to cut the hole. And now Josh is talking silly things like measuring. So I don't know about him, but I think we're gonna have to cut a hole from about here to here, lengthwise. Oh, here to here, lengthwise, off the center into the side of the tunnel here, and then hopefully with a little bit of trimming to keep it as tight as we can get it on, and then we can do a little metal fab in the cab to close it back up and use this itty bitty shift boot because I have it. Suppose you want a measuring tape.
Need a straight edge or something.
Okay, so we're just cutting back some carpet here. It looks like it would have cleared the bench, but who'd have known?
Me.
So Josh is in love with the bench seat, and I don't blame him. It's comfy as heck. So we might have to repair the framing of the bench seat eventually and put it back in, but the buckets will work for this year, especially with the nice tears in them. Josh is just surgically removing my replacement carpet here like a heathen.
Yep.
We're gonna have to pull the carpet out to fix the floor, you know that, right?
I know, but I want it to fit.
It's fair. Is your hole big enough?
Not quite.
You gotta cut a little more off this side?
Yep. On the back.
And the back?
I would say.
Does the top of the transmission at the front, ahead of the shifter, clear the tunnel?
I have no idea.
Cut a little more carpet out of the way.
No, it does not.
So we're gonna have to cut more tunnel.
Yeah.
Probably another 3 inches forward.
Or bend it.
Well, let's cut another 1.5 inches out of that tunnel forward and see what happens.
Like we might be able to just, because there's a weird little step there, right where it touches the tranny.
Okay, well, let's lift it up and smack it a few times and do a little more cutting. You might as well cut that whole pad out that you cut. So Josh is just beating the floor the last little bit. We think we got everything clearanced enough. I do have to get this bracket here repaired at work because it was not happy with the situation, but we got it cleared now. So
using it like a jacksaw.
yeah. So I'll get the welder at work to just weld that aluminum up for me, and then I can bolt that back on after. But I think we're ready to set the body down and try starting some of the body bolts, Josh, so that we can lift it all up together. Is that the plan? And then maybe we can start figuring out brake lines and fuel lines. Get that all done.
And the body will never come off again.
Well, we got to lift the back up to put some hockey pucks in it, but we'll only have to lift it up a little bit. Managed to save the rest of the body bushings enough to use anyway. We just don't know where those ones ended up because they pretty much weren't there. And I think we cut them out, but I don't remember. I'd have to look back at the video. Okay, we have lifted the body with a frame for the first time in months. So let's just have a look under here. Yeah, that just clears. We're gonna have to maybe smack that tab up a little, Josh. And we're hitting at the front here still. Yeah. But we can cut that on the inside and bend it up.
That's adjustable.
So I'm happy with that. This is not hitting anymore, which is good news. The back of the transmission hits right here.
Minor. It'll rub through.
So what we might do is we might have to cut this here and just bend it up. Yeah?
We'll have to see what. Might be able to just knock a notch in that too with a chisel.
Yeah, I don't know how much too high it is, so it's tough to tell. Yeah. But drive shaft clears nice. It's good news. Should. It's a factory drive shaft. So we can do brake lines, fuel lines, body mounts, exhaust. It doesn't hang that much low. Oh, it's pretty low. We're gonna get weight on that front suspension, and these headers are the lowest thing by 1.5 inches.
It won't touch. It'll be fine.
This side's pretty low. Although with that police car front suspension,
Never gonna say again.
the thing's sitting here with a Carolina squat right now. We're gonna have to inflate the rear airbags. But this is happiness. This makes us feel like we're actually getting somewhere. It's actually a car. Oh yeah, a couple hockey pucks at the back. This will be all right. Looks good. The body at the back needs to come down a little, but it needs to come forward a little too. We knew that. because these mounts at the front aren't quite in position. The bolts are sitting at an angle. So the whole body's got to slide forward a little, see if we can shimmy it here.
You gotta do it with a bar.
That's what I'm hoping. I did bring a bar down, so. But like, look at the clearance. I forgot how far forward this engine sits in this frame. This is great. I love it. Well, time to get some work done, I guess. So, I got some bolts back in the brackets for the front brake lines. Hung the master cylinder back on, and my lines are all like, I gotta put a flare as close as I can here, and then that pretty much bolts on. This one here, I just need to change a bend in a line, and I can make this work with another flare. And then I just need to finish building the rear brake line, and the brakes are ready to be bled. Steering. All right, so stock rack stuff off of the Crown Vic. And then my brother-in-law used to work at a Ford dealership. He just randomly had this in his toolbox. Well, it bolts right onto the Crown Vic rod coming out of the rack. And would you look at that? I'll just shorten this a little and weld the other piece off the steering on it. And hopefully, we'll have to test it, but I'm hoping we don't have to put a rod link, like a rod end spherical bearing here. But we won't really know 100% until we get this hooked up. So I'm going to keep going on these brake lines, get this done enough that we can lift this so that Josh can start mocking up the exhaust. All right, so front brake lines are all hooked up and done. Of course, this end still has to be connected underneath, but I got a little bit of fooling around down there to do. And my next step is I'm going to try and attack the steering. Josh is in the middle of getting the rear bumper hung on, so we can kind of start figuring out exhaust placement. Well, I've been kind of forgetting to film anything, but we got one tailpipe mocked in, mostly welded. We gave up on the X pipe. Yeah, that just wasn't going to happen. It would hang so low with the setup in this car with those headers. But, I mean, this one tailpipe looks sick.
Pretty good.
I love, like we were just talking, we love true duals, straight out the back raw pipes. Like, the length is perfect. We didn't even cut that pipe.
This makes me pretty happy.
Yeah. All right, we're going to keep welding. We're calling it a night. Josh has other things to do, and I'm going to go home and see the girlfriend. So, show you what all little things you can see from the outside here. So, up front, we got our brake lines mounted, back up solid. 3 out of the 4 body mounts at the front are tightened down. The brake lines are all hooked up. Of course, I have to redo a line over here for the front brakes because I got to put the line lock in, and I will put it before the proportioning valve, although I could put it after. We'll see. I got to do it somewhere, but that doesn't really matter. We figured out the steering, but we do have to put a spherical bearing right here because there's a lot of play in this column. So if we get a spherical bearing right here, it'll hold it stiff, and the steering should be pretty good. We'll see how it feels. We might end up changing this convoluted mess that the factory has, but we'll see. Power steering, I just need to look up a picture of the rack and figure out which line is which, and then I can figure it out how I'm gonna run them and get some new lines made, or make them myself to pick up some fittings, use the crimper at work, not a big deal. But then that'll be done. So that checks off the entire steering system, the entire brake system. We're going to reassess how the clutch is mounted, the clutch pedal is mounted, and see if we can do something better with that because it doesn't look nice, but we'll see. We got the O2 sensor bung pointed at a roughly 45-degree angle like they want. So now that this exhaust pipe's done, I can put this O2 sensor in. I can run all the wiring outside of the cab and get the EFI system all wired up. I can get the engine all wired up. I have to measure a couple belts. I actually have the factory power steering belt, so I'll double check the length of the power steering belt, make sure it's still okay. It should be, because nothing has changed. And if it's all right, I'll just get a new belt. And I have to measure a belt for the alternator, but that's not a big deal. I'll get that taken care of. I have 2 electric fans to choose from to mount to the radiator, so we'll see which one I end up going with. We'll see which one kind of mounts up nicer, and then I can wire that. The fuel line is a couple fittings away from completely done at the back. And then I got a little short chunk to do at the front, and to mount, I've got the hard line up to here. Once I figure out where I'm going with it, I can P-clamp it to stuff and put a connector in it. And then just build a line from the throttle body back to it. And a couple fittings from the hard line to the filter underneath. And I'm missing one fitting for my soft line to connect for the return. But it's getting close under there too. I've got a ground wire for the pump and just extend the hot wire, and that is done. As you saw, we got the one exhaust pipe mocked up. Josh actually got it fully welded. I want to clean up the hanger on this side a little bit, but it's going to look pretty good. And if this thing has a lopey idle at all, it should sit here and shake a little bit, which will look good. I'm debating whether to shorten the pipe a little, but I do like the fact that it's a little long. It's not going to cover my bumper in soot. So we'll see what we figure. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. Sitting on the frame, the tires are a little narrower than I want, but it's good enough for this year. Although it does have the kind of Carolina squat going on here. We'll see once the front suspension settles a little bit. But we might end up pumping up the airbags at the back just to level the car out, or going eventually with a shorter coil on the struts up front to kind of get the height we want. But as long as it's roadworthy this year, that's all I care about. I can worry about little things like that later. So the fact that the car body is on the frame again, I can knock about a bunch of stuff after work this week, and then next weekend when Josh is back, we can worry about the other exhaust pipe, and he can give me a hand hanging the front fenders so that we can get the body lines correct. And he's gonna have to adjust my passenger side door striker just to make sure it shuts nice. But like I can start all the wiring, I can finish up all the fuel line plumbing, I can do all the power steering stuff. Well, most of it. Might have to wait for that spherical bearing, we'll see. But yeah, now I can make some headway this week, because it is 4 weeks from today till we are at Test and Tune. This car hasn't ran. The body's not even fully bolted to the frame. The brakes are hooked up, but they're not bled. But I still got to put the line lock in. I got a ton of wiring in the cab. We got some metal work in the cab for the trans tunnel. We got to figure out the clutch for sure, where we're putting the pedal, what we're doing with that. All the front end sheet metal to put on. We got to test drive it. We got to work on the tune. There's a lot to do. And I'm taking a week off to go camping. So really, I have 3 weeks to get this thing done. So for the next better part of 2 weeks, I'm going to try and do 3 to 4 days a week after work out here, to try and get as much as I can done, so when Josh is home on the weekend, we can knock out a bunch of stuff. Because after next weekend, I have 3 days and then I'm camping for a week. And then if it's not done the week after I'm camping, we're screwed. So I'm hoping I can knock out enough stuff after work this week, and next weekend, hopefully over 1 or 2 days next weekend, full days, that we can get this thing on the road. And then that'll calm me a little bit. We can take it for a drive, get it all figured out, and see what breaks, what doesn't. Is the clutch any good? Do I have to change that clutch? I'm still stressed beyond belief, but we'll get through it. If we can make that Beetle work last year, there's no reason we can't make this car work. So Josh keeps reminding me of that, and he's right. So we'll get it. But thanks for watching, guys. Follow me on Instagram. It's at BarkleyBuilt. We'll catch you in the next one.